Hey everybody, today I am going to be making a box to store all of my plant tags in. So what I have here is actually a Christmas greeting card box that had like cards that I sent out for a year. And then I have this really pretty craft paper that has this floral print on it. So my plan is to just literally cover the box with the floral paper, the top, bottom and the top, and then on the inside rim here, put this piece of green craft paper in. So on this box, it's relatively easy. These flaps fold out. So what I'm gonna start by doing is just gluing the lid on to the paper. And then I'm gonna let that dry enough that it doesn't move around, and then I'm going to fold the flaps out and cut around it and then glue the flap part. I have Mod Podge here. It's a matte one for paper, so it's acid free and safe to use with paper and photos and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've shaken the glue really well, and I'm just going to pour some of it into this container. Use my brush here to kind of swipe away the excess glue and put my lid right back on. I did have another container of Mod Podge, but when I went to use it, it was all hardened and dried up. I think the lid got left off for too long, so I'm going to make sure this time that that does not happen. So then I'm just going to take my brush, dip it in the glue, and literally paint the glue onto this box lid. Probably should have tried to flatten out this wrapping paper before I did this, just to make it easier on myself, but it'll be okay. I think if I were to do it again, I would make sure. Actually, I'm just going to pull it off of this paper altogether for right this second. Make it easier to paint the box lid. Okay, so the box lid has been painted. Then I'm going to fold this paper back out. This is the Mod Podge to hold down one side. And I got a knife over here I can use to hold down the other curling side here. And then I'm just going to literally flip the box top over onto my paper. Try to center it and push it down. I'm just pushing real hard, making sure I get my fingers in the corners real good. And now I'm just going to flip it over real quick. And it looks like it's got a few little bubbles on it. So I have this Mod Podge tool right here, or Mod Podge I guess it's called. And I'm just going to use it to smooth out any bubbles in it. So I like to store all of my plant tags because they have all the information on a plant, and if I need to get more of the plant, it's real easy to just write how many I want and take the tag with me wherever I'm shopping until I manage to find what it is that I'm looking for. So I thought that it would be nice to put it in a nice box that was easily identifiable, which is why I am working on this project. So now that I have got it smoothed out as best as I can, I'm just going to set it off to the side and let it dry. So my base piece didn't end up being big enough to pull the flaps out, so I'm going to get a new piece, but in the meantime, my top piece is dried. So then I'm literally just going to unfold the box. I thought it unfolded really easily, but I guess only these two flaps did. Oh, there we go. Unfold the box like so. Then I'm going to take a cutting sheet here and my knife and cut out around the edge of the box. Well, that did not go as smoothly as I would have liked, but now my plan is just to glue these flaps down. This is my first time working with Mod Podge for this type of an application. And I did end up with more bubbles than I would have liked on my lid. I think I should not have set the lid down on top. I think I should have done it differently. So now that I'll be working on the bottom next, I will be doing that part differently. And I am getting some glue, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be painting the outside of it with the Mod Podge anyways in the end. do think it's going to be easiest to reform this into its box shape before the Mod Podge dries, because I think the Mod Podge is going to make the cardboard stiffer. So there's the lid, and then I'm just going to go ahead and let this dry so I don't get the paper excessively wet before I brush my coat on the outside. But you can kind of see possibly in the video where it's shinier and kind of a little bit darker. That's what the whole thing will look like. It'll just kind of help bring out this white detail on it a bit more. So I'm going to set this off to the side and then cut a new piece so that we can work on the base of the box. So I got a new piece cut for the base, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Paint the bottom of the box with the Mod Podge. And while I think it would be easier to not have as many bubbles to put the paper down over the box instead of the box down on top of the paper, if that makes sense. The paper is just curling up way too much to feasibly do it that way. So I'm just going to try and make sure that I get my glue smoother. Flip my box over. Try to make sure I'm centered. Push it down real good. Remove my curl holders here. Over. Use my tool here to get out what I can. Let that sit and dry. I think this is now dry enough to go ahead and brush my coat on the outside. Trying to just make sure it's an even layer, not too thick but not too thin. Trying to get my brush marks out. And then do the same to the sides. I am going to do the inside of the edge too, but I'm going to go ahead and let this part dry first. fairly wet. I'm gonna pause the video, let this dry a little. Probably go take the barking dog out. Okay, so now that the base has had a chance to dry some, I'm just gonna do the same thing I did with the top, and I'm going to take my X-Acto blade here and trace around the box. Then I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the lid. And paint these edges with the glue. And then just like I did with the lid, while it is still pliable, I'm going to go ahead and fold the box back up. So there's my base. Now I'll just let this dry, and then we will move on to the next step. Hey everybody, so it's day 2 of my tag box project. Got too late the first night by the time I let coatings dry, so I just called it a night, and now I'm picking it back up again. The tabs aren't staying down very well, so my plan first is to take some double stick tape and run it along the bottom edge and up the side a bit. To secure this down better. Go ahead and pull the other flaps up and do the same thing to them, and then reassemble the box. And now the box will stay assembled. And I'm just actually going to leave the bottom alone instead of doing it also. It doesn't seem to be popping up like the top was. So now, all I have left to do, I'm not going to put the green paper inside of here. It's just curling way too much, and it's going to be way too difficult to try to get it to flatten out. And so I decided that I may in the future use some cardstock down in there, but at the moment I'm just going to leave it be. Then I'm just going to take some Mod Podge here. I'm going to pull off what's on this and just put it on this box top right now, so that I can pour some out and put my lid back on. Last time I ended up with too much, I think, so I'm going to pour less. I did apply one coat to the lid of the box already, but I want to apply a few coats of it. So, just taking my brush and painting the Mod Podge onto the box. Trying to make sure that I cover it thoroughly and evenly and kind of have the same stroking motion all the way down the box. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the sides. I'm just going to sit it here for a second. I meant to grab a cup to sit it on, but I forgot. So I'm going to run in and wash my hands and grab a cup real quick. Decided a bowl would work better. So I'm just going to take this and set it on top of the bowl. And then I'm just going to do the same thing to the bottom of the box. Basically right now what I'm doing is sealing the box, because the Mod Podge is both a glue and a sealer. So what I do with my plant tags, other than just store them in this box, is that I write on them where I have planted the plant. So I've divided our yard up. For instance, front flower beds, if for some reason there was just one thing on one side that's not on the other, then I would mark it front left or front right from a standing and looking at it perspective. I've got my wall, in essence, broken down into hillside 1, hillside 2, gazebo 1, because it was the first gazebo that we built, and then our other area is gazebo 2, and then I have retention pond 1 and retention pond 2, and so forth. So that way, not only do I know what plants I have, but I know where they're planted if for some reason I want to know the name of something. Now, I just started doing that part, the labeling of them, this year, and actually put them in this box. Before, I was trying to save them in like a plastic container, and I wasn't writing any of the areas they were planted in, and the plastic container seemed to never be in a spot that was easy to get to when I had a plant tag, and so I ended up with loose plant tags basically floating all over, and that's why I decided to make this box, because with this Mod Podge coating on it, not that it'll be outdoor safe, but it won't, a slight bit of moisture won't affect it. So I can put this out in either our well house or our shop or our shed and have it out there when I'm working on planting, and just put the tags right in. Now I do wash my tags, just because most of them are dirty and I'm storing them, and it makes it easier to also read and write on them. almost done with this. I'm also going to be doing the inside, but it's just too hard to do the inside and the outside at the same time. So I'm starting with the outside. And then I'm just going to sit this on top of my Mod Podge jar. And they have to dry for 15 minutes, and then I'll be coming back and putting on another coat. I'm probably going to do 3 or 4 coats. So I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes and I'll be back. Hey everybody. So it's day 3 of my box project here. I keep getting called away when I'm on the let dry 15-minute part and then not getting to come back to it until it's so late that I'm just done with it for the day. But I have managed to get a couple more coats on, so I'm basically to the point where my top is done, the sides are done. I need to do one more coat on the inside of this, and I probably need 2 more coats on the inside of this one. The outside of this one is also done. So I'm just going to take my brush and do the same thing. Dab it on there. Smooth it out. See if I can do this in a way where you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm just not really caring how it goes on in the beginning, because then I'm smoothing it all out with the brush. Just making sure I get it real good in the corners. Since it is my final coat on this one. Kind of dabbing the brush. And I'm just going to smooth out anything that might have come up over the edge. And set that to the side to dry, and the lid will be done. And I'm going to take some glue, dab it on the inside of here. I'm just going to put kind of a bunch inside here because I want to be able to close my Mod Podge back up. So I'm just kind of dabbing it around. I think I have enough in here to coat it, and then I'm going to close my Mod Podge up and go ahead and work what I've dabbed around on the sides. So now I'm just doing the same thing and using the brush to smooth it all out, make sure I work it into the corners. Trying to make sure it's a even coat as much as possible. So I do have excess, and when that happens, I'm just go ahead and covering the cardboard part. Get the excess off my brush so that I can keep pulling what I have on the sides around. Try to push some off my brush onto my piece of foil here. I did end up with too much this time. That's the first time I've had that happen. The whole time I've been working on this. So, with the thickness this coat ended up being, it may very well be my final coat. And then just going to let this dry also. So I'll set a timer. Oops, got one spot right there. Timer for 15 minutes, and then I'll be back to show you the last step of the process. So 15 minutes have passed, and I'm just going to kind of check this over and see. I like this lid, the thickness of it on the top and on the inside. So the lid is done. Then I'm just going to check the inside of this, and as I suspected, I think that last thicker coat may have done it. I'm using the light from outside to kind of see the texture. I may end up still doing one more coat on this, but it's still a little bit wet because it was such a thick coat, so I'm going to let it sit a while longer. So in the meantime, I did want to go over kind of what I do with my tags. So for instance, this is a Brilliance Autumn Fern tag, and these I planted in the back around our gazebo. So I'm literally just going to write on the tag gazebo, and I use this permanent marker. I found that it is the least likely to rub off, and then I'll set it to the side. Then I have a Queen of Hearts Brunnera, and these I planted over by the well house, which is one of the areas that I call Hostaland. I have two of them, so this will be marked Hostaland. And so on with my tags. So I did find some tags I'm going to go through and label before I put them in the box, and then literally the tags are just going to drop down inside the box. The lid of the box is going to go on, and then I have one last step. I want to put some ribbon on this outside edge, but I need to move locations because I only have a cord that's so long to hook my hot glue gun to, and I'm going to use the hot glue gun to put the ribbon on. So I'm going to pause the video again. I'll get my ribbon out, get my hot glue gun set up, rotate the other direction where you'll see my mess, unfortunately, and we'll go from there. So now the final step is just going to be this green ribbon. It's double-sided. I'm going to use the green side. I'm going to put on around the edge, so I just kind of wrapped it around while I was waiting for my hot glue gun to heat, just to kind of roughly measure, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my ribbon to the length I need. Then I've just picked the spot as my starting point, and I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue for a distance on the box. And then I'm going to take it, ribbon, and line it up with the top edge. It's going to overlap the bottom edge a bit, but that's okay. And push it down like so. And I'm just going to keep doing that around the box, pulling off my hot glue strings as they're created. I went with this green ribbon because eventually I am going to put a green bottom in the box, so it'll kind of match. I'm going to just stop short with that stream right before where I hit the ribbon that is already down, because I don't have a clean cut edge here. So I'm going to fold this over and then glue kind of in little sections. Just so that my glue doesn't go past my end point here. Pull off the glue strings. Take some glue and try to shoot it down in that joint spot. Seal it together. And then I'm going to do the same on the top. Kind of pull it back and take some glue and shove it in that joint spot. That's just where I folded it over, to seal it together and make it look a little more finished on the edge. And I got a toothpick here because I had some glue ooze out when I did that. So I'm just going to use this toothpick to pull the excess away. Then I can pull the little strings off once they've dried. So there you have it. There's my lid. So there's my finished box, and now I will know that this is my plant tag box because it's easily identifiable, and I can put it on a shelf in one of my storage areas.